Aloha, and welcome to Masters of Divinity. I am your moderator, JP, and I'm here as always with Father Chuck.
What's up? Aloha.
Kahuna Chuck, right? Because that's Hawaiian for... No, wait. That's Hawaiian for priest.
Priest. Kahuna is,
So
yes.
You wouldn't be Kahuna Chuck. You would just be... I don't know. I do like Kahuna Chuck, though.
Yeah, I mean, makua is another term that can also be used as a priest, like a substitute. But yeah, kahuna.
Do you want to tell our audience why we've decided to open this episode up talking about Hawaiian, talking in Hawaiian?
Because our podcast, talking story, is the Hawaiian idiom of what you do. You talk story.
Nice.
You don't talk stink. That's a great one. Talking stink is when you're talking like negative gossip. Yeah. Like gossip in general is the coconut wireless. All these fun things that you will hear and more because a big change is happening in the Browning household. As most, I would, well, I don't know if any of our listeners really know, other than the ones who already know. I am relocating to the great city of Honolulu in like 3 weeks.
Wow. That's a big... I didn't realize it was so soon.
Yeah.
I'm equal parts excited for you, equal parts hate you, because I think living in Hawaii would be neat.
You know, it seems like it would be.
And but I am throwing up a chakra bra for you, so there you go.
Yeah, I should probably specify that I'm not like just moving to Hawaii for just to like Chris Pratt it like in a van.
That would be awesome though.
No, I am
your family in a van.
Yeah. We actually did think about it. I have been called to be the priest in charge of St. Mary's Episcopal Church in the Mo'ili'ili neighborhood in downtown Honolulu. And then we will be living in the Hawaii Kai area on the eastern side of the island. And listen, every time I talk about this, I'm like, this is objectively insane.
Yeah, it's surreal. It's a bit surreal.
I mean, people don't live like who gets to live in Hawaii, right? I mean, it just seems it's such a dream.
Yeah.
It's like, people live in Hawaii. Lots of people live in Hawaii, but they're Hawaiians. Mm-hmm. Like, friends don't go to Hawaii. They don't move to Hawaii. only celebrities do that kind of thing.
I mean, it's the closest thing you could do to actually leave the country.
Right. It is the only state in our country that is technically in another continent.
Right.
Because it's part of Oceania.
Right. The continent of Atlantis. Is that right? That's...
Yes.
Yeah.
It's, kind of part of Oceania. It's just debatable if it's actually part of Oceania, but some people include it as part of Oceania. And it is definitely part of the Polynesian Triangle. So which is an anthropological, anthrocultural region.
Archipelago? Is it?
No. No.
Okay. All right.
No, because it's connected through anthropological ties rather than geographic ties.
Oh, right. Okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but it is crazy that my family in 5 weeks from now we will be sleeping in a house in Hawaii, and that will be our home. We're not going to be on vacation. That will be our home, our foreseeable future. We are living in Hawaii.
And I feel like it probably won't be a huge culture shock for somebody from Florida. Maybe. I not so much. I mean, there's a well-sized native population. That's probably not, what you'd expect to see in Florida. But aside from that, the weather, the culture, it's a bit, it's laid back and it's nice.
Yeah, it's laid back. It's nice. I mean, reading, one of the cool things is the Diocese of Hawaii sends every mainlander who get tired to their church a book called Culture Shock Hawaii. Oh. It's sort of like a travel guide, but it's really insightful. It's about this guy who he's from Colorado, who married a Japanese woman, lived in Japan, and then moved to Colorado, and then moved to Hawaii. And so he talks about like his experiences of several years living there, what it was like as a mainlander moving in, and it's it's been really insightful. But what you get from reading it is that Japanese culture has influenced Hawaiian culture in pretty profound ways, because there's a few things that are culturally resonant between the native Hawaiian culture and Japanese culture that have just sort of blended in pretty smoothly. And so like the biggest thing is that it's a collectivist culture, not an individualistic culture. And so it definitely has a feel very different from anywhere in the mainland. I mean, both Kane and I, when we got there, we're like, as we're looking at Honolulu driving around, we're like, when we went to visit for the interviews, we were like, this looks like, oh, that looks like Singapore. Oh, this looks like parts of Bangkok we've seen. Like, there's just very, like, it has a very Asian look to it as a city. And then, I mean, of course, the church is like on one side of the church is like a really Japanese looking ramen restaurant, like with the like flags and stuff hanging out outside. And then there's like a little office building next to the church. And the other side of that is a Shinto shrine. So it's just very, and it is not going to help my weeaboo stuff, dude.
No, it's not. No. I was going to ask you, the weeaboo inside you, who lives inside you, is he pretty excited? Is he,
Okay. So I haven't told you about this. So when we went to visit, we've been told by people that for getting touristy things, like a good place to go buy like little tchotchkes for gifts that you bring back home, was from this place called Don Quixote. So Don Quixote is a Japanese wholesaler. Like, it's sort of like if you put a Walgreens inside of a Winn-Dixie.
Okay.
And they have like a number of locations throughout Japan. I think the only location in America is in Honolulu. And so it's a grocery store, and it is really Japanese. I mean, like, when Ken and I walked in, it was like we stepped into like Japan. Like, it was yeah. And as I walked around, I said to Kana, I said, it's too much. Like, I don't even,
too good to be true. Like,
no, it's like, have you ever had too many options and you don't know where to begin?
Yeah.
That was kind of how I felt. I was like, there's so much Japanese like stuff. Like, and it made me kind of afraid. Like, if I ever go to Japan, is my brain going to break? Because there's just too much.
Yeah.
It's just sort of sensory overload. And so I was just kind of like, just there. Like, I'm looking at packages of like entire squids that are dried. Wow. And I'm like seeing like all the candy and just everything.
That's amazing.
And But yeah, so in terms of the weeaboo part of me, I think he doesn't know what to do. But we did eat at a sushi restaurant that served you sushi on a bullet train. So Weeaboo Chuck was pretty happy with that.
Nice. It's like you've been preparing for this your whole life, but you still don't feel prepared. Like how could you feel prepared?
Yeah, because it's one of those things that, like, this is the being both a surfer and into Japanese culture, both like some religious stuff and also pop culture, throughout so much of my life. It's one of these things that, like, I've always wanted to be someplace like Hawaii or wherever. Like, I never really thought I'd live in Hawaii. Like, it was never something I was like, it was never a dream for me to like move to Hawaii.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of impossible anyway, unless you have like a big income. Like, it's kind of hard.
Right. Yeah. And you
have an advantage being a priest. That's what I'm saying. You have a job waiting for you.
Yeah. But it was just sort of like one of these things where, in terms of like all of this culture, like I've wanted to be a part of it, but it was never like realistic. It was always like, hopefully someday.
Right.
Like, maybe someday I would go to Japan. Maybe, like I spent a total of like 40 minutes in actual Japan when I came back from Thailand. Right. But it was just enough time to get from one plane to another. So like, I don't really feel like I went to Japan, because I just ran from one gate to the next. But so it's weird. It's like, as you're saying, like it's something I kind of wanted my whole life, but now that I have it, I'm like, feel like I'm playing catch up. And there's like a weird intimidation that I'm like, am I going to overdo it? Like, am I going to like,
be completely insufferable? Are you going to wear a Hawaiian shirt every time I see you on this podcast?
I've been wearing a lot of Hawaiian shirts. I'm wearing an Epcot shirt right now. Nice. But no, I actually but the funny thing is I've had a few Aloha shirts that I've been wearing off and on just because I like them. They're comfortable. Mm-hmm. But ever since the Hawaii news came out, when people see me in it, like, oh, I see you're getting ready. And I'm like, this shirt's 2 years old.
Nice. So are you going to change your name to Kunu? Chuck is your mainland name?
Oh, gosh. What if I did that? I bet the church would fire me.
I hear him, Kunu.
Guys, listen. You hired me. No longer am I Charles. Kunu. Bretta. Yeah, no, but it's really awesome, and we're really excited, and just like, I mean, I could go on and on, just like all the stuff I'm reading and learning and stuff I'm excited about. You'll probably hearing lots of it throughout the podcast as we record, because I will be, adjusting to this new reality and everything.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting recording this podcast with you almost a day behind us. Almost half a day behind us.
Right. Like from Florida to now is a 6-hour difference, or 5-hour difference. It's 4:51 p.m. in Honolulu right now. And it is 9:52 p.m. my time here in Florida. Yeah. And so 8:52 your time, right? So that'll be interesting to figure out.
We're gonna have to do some math, some calculating on that.
Yep.
But I'm sure we'll make it work.
Yep.
We always have. I'm not gonna let a time zone get in the way of it.
No, I mean, it might be one of these things where it's like, either super early in the morning for me or super late at night. But we'll make it work.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine, bro. I'm not worried, bro. I ain't worried.
You can't be worried. You're required not to worry about it since you're moving to Hawaii. So I grow pot, so I can't worry either.
Right. Matt can worry.
Yeah, we'll let Matt do the worrying.
How long has it been since Matt has been on this show?
I don't know. Listeners, let us know if you know. It's been since we're kind of averaging like an episode a month. It's been a few months.
I think we've done like 5 episodes without him.
I think
so. Has it been like 5 or 6 months?
I think maybe. And what's funny is that one of my friends listens to this podcast, and he actually made a very nice post about us on Facebook. Ben, if you're listening, shout out, thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
I still have your copy of the whole shebang of Scud, the Disposable Assassin. If you want it back, let me know. But full disclosure, I haven't started it yet, but I still want to read it. Anyway, shout out for leaving us a really nice Facebook post a few months ago. But what I thought was funny about it was that he kind of described the podcast as JP and Chuck and occasionally Matt. I was like, oh no.
It's true though, but for like good reasons, right? It's not like Matt's just like a slacker. Like Matt has a very complicated life as a member of the law enforcement community, and is been one with like crazy scheduling, and then now he's been in training because he's doing new work.
But it's funny because like Matt saw that post as well and was like, oh, so occasionally Matt, huh?
That's his new podcast name.
Occasionally Matt. Thanks, Ben. You gave us you finally.
We try to figure out what to call him, and so it's Occasional Matt.
Occasional Matt. I like it. It's got a good ring to it.
It does.
He's going to be so mad when he hears it.
So we are going to. Well, I guess another. Did we? I don't know if we also mentioned, because we're so hit or miss. Did we talk about the fact that I'm having another kid too? Have we shared that on the podcast?
That you're having a third child. I keep forgetting that you're having a third one. In addition to moving to Hawaii. So you're scaling back on some stuff, except for children.
Listen, every move has coincided with a child. Or I should say, every child has coincided with a move. When Charlie was born is when I started here at the Chapel of St. Andrew. We moved to our house in Boynton. Then and then we got pregnant with Ford, and that was when we moved on campus here at the school. So when Kana told me that she had a positive pregnancy test, I was like, well, we're moving to Hawaii. Because, we were still in the search process and we didn't know.
Wow.
Like, it was very early on. So I was like, well, I guess we're going to move to Hawaii because we're going to have a kid. Because kids are, they presage moves. So we're going to have a child that will be born in Hawaii.
Wow.
By the way, let me just share. It was very funny when told the boys, when Ken and I told the boys that we were moving, Charlie's first question was, he goes, are there toys there? And he's like, basically, it's like, is there Star Wars? Do they have Star Wars in Hawaii? And I was like, yes, Charlie, they have Star Wars. They have Star Wars there. He's like, how do you know? And I said, he's 5, by the way. And I said, well, they have Target. He's like Target? I'm like, yes, like Target, like just normal Target, like you and I shop at all the time. They have that there in Hawaii. He goes, how do you know? How do you know they have Target? And I said, because I shopped there. We went into the Target in Kailua. Like, we looked at stuff. He says, they have all the same things. He says, yes, all the same things. Like, the only thing different is they have a section that sells, like, authentic Hawaiian shirts. That's the only thing different that they have in the Kailua Target than what they have in Boca Raton. And I said, in fact, when we get there, we will take you to Target so you can see it. So actually, that's our plan, is because their stuff, it may take like several weeks for all of our stuff to get there. So we're gonna take them to Target and buy them like little Lego sets or something, so they can see something normal, familiar, and then get a reward out of it. So
it would be funny if you just like took them to Walgreens instead and took them to the toy aisle and it's just all those knockoff action figures. Like, see, I told you. Well, it's not quite Star Wars, but it's close, right?
So in Waikiki has this, like, these stores. They're like they're sort of like convenience store. It's called it's an ABC store, but it's not like ABC liquor like we have here. It's just ABC stores, and they are everywhere in Waikiki. I mean, it's hilarious how many there are, and that'd be funny to take them to that and just find like this is Target.
Yeah.
This is Hawaii Target.
Well, cool, man. I think it's pretty exciting. I hope that I can visit you, because that would be cool. You and I have never traveled before.
No, we are both traveled people.
Yeah.
But we have not traveled together.
I've traveled with Matt, not much, but I've been to different places. But not with you. So it's interesting. It'd be her first time traveling Hawaii, essentially.
You should. Here's what we should do. We should like make some kind of like plan. You should like come stay with us, and then like you and I travel somewhere.
Ooh. Like Japan.
Like Japan would be awesome.
Oh no.
Or gosh,
Disney
that would be
Sea.
Could you imagine you, me, and Matt just traveling to Japan, the three of us?
That'd be awesome.
And recording this podcast in Japan. I would pay extra money just to watch Matt in Japan. I just have a feeling that would be very funny.
Our 50 listeners would be riveted.
Hey, so on the Patreon, pay for us 3 to go to Japan.
Yeah, we have a Patreon. Shout out to our one Patreon subscriber who keeps the URL afloat, or not the URL, the hosting.
The hosting afloat. Yeah,
yeah, the SoundCloud afloat. But no, that'd be cool. Like, we go to Japan. We'll go to Tokyo. We'll go to Disney Sea. Somewhere I've always wanted to go.
Disney Sea.
Yeah, do you know about Disney Sea? I mean, you have to know about Disney Sea, right?
That's the like water park, right?
No, you don't know about Disney Sea? Really?
I know Tokyo Disney.
No, Disney Sea. It's kind of like their Islands of Adventure.
Okay.
Everything is sort of like, it's not a water.
Oh yeah.
It's not like a water park, but it's very aquatic themed.
That's right.
It's like islands, essentially.
Right.
And it has and it's special amongst like Disney fans because it has some rides that are still like original and not necessarily based on Disney properties. I think the most famous one is Journey to the Center of the Earth, which even though it's not original, it's Jules Verne. Right. But the designs and stuff are original, designed by actual Imagineers and stuff like that. It's not like Pixar or Frozen or something.
Right.
So it's cool. I would love to go there, and it's all, of course. I mean, if you don't speak Japanese, you probably don't know what's going on. They also have their version of the Tower of Terror, which is called like the Mystic Hotel or something. And that's pretty crazy. Like if you look it up, like the building's like the same shape as the Tower of Terror, but like the exterior of it is like crazy looking. Like it's pretty insane.
Huh.
And what else is there that I saw that was really awesome?
Yeah, there is something else there because I've read about this.
I think they had like their own version of like the Haunted Mansion.
They do have their own version of the Haunted Mansion.
Maybe that's the Mystic Mansion. Maybe that's what I'm getting it mixed up or something. It's not like spooky, but it's like,
I think that's the one that deals with like a sailor.
Yeah.
Who died at sea or something.
Something like that.
Yeah, I've got like a Haunted Mansion book packed away that talks about all the versions of the Haunted Mansion.
And I wonder if it has to do with like Japanese culture, like their haunted mansion is not like spooky and gothic. It's like fantasy.
Well, I know that the Haunted Mansion that's in the Shanghai Disney, the Chinese Disney, can't have anything supernatural in it because China has this whole thing about that.
They're very against ghosts and portrayal of ghosts.
Yeah, and so it's like a mystery house.
Yeah,
not a ghost house. And I don't know if there's, but yeah, because I remember there is one of the Haunted Mansions it deals with like a sea captain, and that character sort of is in the Disney World Haunted Mansion because they have like a tomb for him.
Yeah, he's part of the Explorers Club, right? That's sort of that big kind of like shared universe subplot throughout all of Disney parks, which Indiana Jones is a member of apparently too.
Yeah, and yeah.
This is some deep seated Disney nerd stuff that you have to like look up on Disney Wikipedias.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't know, it's so interesting. I mean, it's a little sad to like. That's one thing I'm a little, of course, sad about because we enjoy going to Disney very much as a family. But Hawaii's cool, I guess. They do have Aulani. They have a very nice Disney resort there that apparently you can like pay some kind of membership fee to have like access to parts of it or whatever. But like Epcot's going to go through like this major like 3-year renovation in time for the 40th anniversary. So that's what I told Charlie because that's the other thing is the next day after we told him, Charlie climbs in bed with me in the morning and he goes, "Daddy, we won't be able to go to Disney anymore if we move to Hawaii." And I said, "I know, buddy." And I said, but Disney, they're getting ready to completely redo Epcot and they're going to be opening a whole bunch of new rides. And I said, honestly, it's probably better for us to take a few years off. And then that way, once everything is new and open, we can go back.
Yeah. And
we'll get to see it all and it'll all be new. And he seemed to be kind of okay with that. He's the one that I think he's been very apprehensive about the move. Ford is like jumping on the couch excited. But I think that once we get there, we might see them flip. In which case, like Charlie will just like own it. He's like, all right, we're in Hawaii now. This is cool. Like this is my reality. We'll just make the most of it. Whereas Ford will then start being like, I want to go home.
Right.
And being all dramatic. I can totally see that happening. Right. And, but I mean, at least they're young enough that it's not going to be as traumatic an experience. They're pliable at this age.
Yeah. A few years to go by and they probably won't even really think about Disney. Or they'll think where they live is way cooler than Disney.
Yeah, well, and they might not even have very many memories of Disney. I mean, because you think about it, like your memories don't really start solidifying until you're like 6 or 7 years old.
Right.
So like it's kind of crazy to think that Charlie may have a few vague memories of living here. Ford will probably not remember anything. So then in a few years when we go to Disney, it'll be new to them, and that'll be cool. I'll get a little personal here, and that is, it's only been like the past couple of years that I've been open to this sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Like I have really, I mean, to be real honest, like I've always wanted to do something like this, but I've also kind of always been afraid of doing something like this, because I tend to be I like home. I like my friends, like I like hanging out with, like seeing, Keelan and people that I know. And
you always did have a certain amount of civic pride in Florida, kind of digging your heels into, yeah, I live in Florida. What of it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I just, and I had that. And, a few years ago, I had a really close brush with the idea of moving back to Orlando, which was probably, coming that close to it made me kind of realize I actually didn't want it. And I started thinking, I think I want something actually drastically different. And then I started to realize, I've got my wife and my kids. I have my home, and they're going to go with me wherever I go. Was that a moth? What was that?
It was a moth.
Okay.
Sorry, live out the country,
Yeah, it's all right. We have giant. Apparently, I'm going to have to deal with giant centipedes in Hawaii. So, but anyway, yeah. So like, I'm feeling at this place because Kano has always been much more of like a just go do some kind of adventurous thing. And like, I'm always like on board with it. But then like the day or two before I leave, I get like super antsy and nervous. And I'm like, I don't know, like I get all like, like, I don't know. I just have like these like weird fears about this kind of stuff. That's just been my tendency. And this is completely somewhat out of character for me in based off of past precedent for me to like really want to do this. Mm-hmm. And like, I'm full on stoked about it. And I'm excited that I'm excited about it because, like I said, like I've let fear sort of dictate a lot of decisions I've made in my life, and like the big ones. Now, obviously, I moved to DC for 3 years to go to seminary. And I didn't know anyone. That was a pretty big step for me. Right. Like I'm the kind of person that freshman year at PBA, I was still driving home every weekend. And then when Keelan came, Keelan, friend of the show, childhood best friend, when he came down to PBA for the spring semester, then I started staying and hanging around. That's when I really met you. And, then we ended up getting an apartment together and all that kind of stuff. Right. That was the year after that. But, I started to kind of flourish a little bit but I had sort of like some form of safety net, a familiar face to kind of ease me into it. And now, like, here I am going for broke, man, leaving behind like everything except for my family, everything that I know and hold to be familiar. Right. But like, it's crazy though. Like when I was out there in September for an interview, it was scary at first. And then I just had this really weird moment where it just settled over me. I'm like, man, this place feels like home. Like it just hit me that it felt like home, and I was sad to leave. And then when I had the opportunity to go back for this other job interview, which is now for the place that I'm going to be working, when Kane and I looked out the window and we saw the island in the window, it was just like, oh, we're home. And then we got out of the plane and everything felt right and familiar. And it just was like, this is home. Like this place is home. And so, then that got scary because it was like, well, what if they say no to us? Because now, like, we've really fallen in love with it, and like any other place that I could serve as a priest would absolutely feel like at best, like, second best, and that's not what anyone wants. So, we really have lucked out. We feel that God has been very good to us to call us into what feels like the best possible place that we could go, and so it's just this crazy thing to be, going on an adventure, and something I've, in the back of my mind always wanted to do, but been afraid to. And here I am, now I'm doing it. Right. And, my kids are going to have this crazy experience to be able to say they grew up in Hawaii. Yeah. I mean, think about it, like in a few years, like, we don't know, 10, 15 years from now, when the kids start going into college or whatever, like they're, who knows where they're going to go. And, they may end up like somewhere in the Midwest, and people are going to be like, oh, so where are you from? And they're going to be like, Hawaii.
Cool. What is like sort of the overall, like, is it pretty, like sort of the Christian like demographic in Hawaii? Is it sort of like who has the bigger influence? Do you think is it still like evangelicals or Protestant?
Protestant evangelicals and Catholics hold some pretty big sway. I think so. So the culturally, the more evangelical types were there first because the Congregationalists were the first to. So like the universe, so like the United Church of Christ. Well, I mean, what became the United Church of Christ, but the Congregationalists were the first missionaries. So Calvinist missionaries were the first to show up in Hawaii, and they did a lot of damage. Like the Dole pineapple plantation.
Oh yeah.
The Doles were missionaries, and then suddenly they made a lot of money. One of the great sayings that I've heard is. Dole went to Hawaii to do good, and he ended up doing well. Wow. And so that's a huge thing that I can get into in a little bit. But so the Congregationalists were the first, and so they have the historic churches, and so there's a bit of a Presbyterian element too that still lingers there. But Kamehameha the Fourth. The fourth king of the United Kingdom of Hawaii, him and his wife Emma, they became Anglican Christians, and they brought Anglican Christianity from England. So the Episcopal Church is Anglican. So they brought that with them after visiting Queen Victoria and becoming friends with her. Kamehameha really liked what he saw in Oxford. And so he thought that was a much more appropriate type of Christianity that resonated better with the refined, because he said the more like, what is it, the sort of the elegant refinement or whatever of the Hawaiian people. And so it really upset the Congregationalist when he did this, but he basically made the official Christianity of Hawaii Anglican. So, and then eventually that became Episcopalian when the Americans came in, but there's also baggage with that because the Americans came in under some really messed up pretenses during American imperialism. So that being said, like Christianity is it's like 65%. It's like the largest religious group on the islands. Buddhism is also significant. It's like a significant second. Agnosticism is also a big deal there. And, and then like animism, folk, native religion, things like that, are on the rise there as well. But what's interesting too about Hawaiian Christianity, and just, I can't really speak for other Hawaiian religions, but but for Hawaiian Christianity, it seems to have an openness to native religious ideas. Like you'll hear people talk about Madame Pele, the goddess of the volcanoes.
Yeah.
That's just sort of like, yeah, of course Pele is part of the, that's just part of it. And cool. I gotta say, I like that. Like I like that sense of a sort of syncretistic approach to religion, and using Christianity as a way to keep some of those folk things alive rather than suppress them, because that's what the Calvinists tried to do. Is they tried to get rid of all of it. They got rid of the hula. They got rid of surfing.
Cool.
They completely redid like even the way that Hawaii, the natives structured their housing situation. They're like what we would call a village. They sort of forced into Western style grids. They gave them the concept of private property ownership. I mean, everything that you dislike about capitalism, like Hawaii is like a perfect, you look at the history of what happened to Hawaii is like a perfect justification of what's wrong with all of that and what they forced these people to deal with. But what's interesting is that with the big five, which are the big five companies, I can't remember all of them, but Dole being one of the biggest, right? The pineapple plantation, to grow like sugar and pineapple and stuff like that, they brought workers from China and Japan, and then later from the Philippines and Korea and the Korean Peninsula. But when they brought the Chinese and the Japanese first to come work the plantations, what seemed to eventually happen is that Japanese and Chinese sensibilities really wove into the fabric of the people. And so it had this almost like corrective effect to what the Americans were doing. And so throughout the late 19th century into the 20th century, and then of course, especially after World War II, um, it's taken on this very interesting character that does not feel Western at all there,
Right.
and seems to be pretty resistant to it. Um, and so that's a cool thing to experience. Um, I'm I will say that Hawaii, years before I ever considered living there, Hawaii was one of the first, like, learning about what the missionaries did to the Hawaiian people when I first started surfing and learning about surfing history. It was one of the first times that I was ever embarrassed for my religion to read what Christian missionaries did to the Hawaiian people. But then when I found out they were Calvinists, I was like, well, of course.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that Calvinists were trying to stop surfing, which I'm like, of course they would, of course.
Yeah, it's enjoyable. I'm like, yeah, I just, there's so many interesting things too there that, I mean, you see from colonialism that are just woven into the fabric of the place, right? Like, I mean, like the Aloha shirt,
Right.
like the Aloha shirt, the Aloha dress. They're actually rooted in the Calvinist missionaries creating things to cover these naked brown bodies up. And then they just sort of took it and made their own thing out of it.
Right.
Which is kind of beautiful in its own way.
Isn't there like a really sad story behind the song Aloha Hawaii? Like it was all about sort of like the kingdom giving up power.
Yeah, so that song was written by Queen Liliuokalani, is the last monarch of Hawaii. She was sort of forced to give up the kingdom through what is known as the Bayonet Constitution, which it was said that because it was like, here's the Constitution and you sign it while I hold the bayonet at you.
Yeah.
And what it turned out, though, is that that was led by corporate interests from the United States, wanting to make Hawaii a U.S. territory. And she was basically led to believe that the U.S. military had boats waiting outside to, like, start bombarding the palace if she didn't sign this constitution. And it turned out that was completely false. Like, they didn't have that. It is lied. And it was, it wasn't Roosevelt, Theodore. It was, I'm trying to remember it was whoever McKinley's predecessor was as president. Anyway, he maybe it was Garfield. Anyway, he got really mad that sort of U.S. military interests acted without Congress's consent in order to sort of force this territory thing. And so he sent like a formal apology to Hawaii. And I guess because Garfield was assassinated, right? Or anyway, McKinley ended up becoming the president, and McKinley just like reversed course on the whole thing and was like, no, this is going to be our territory now. And they forced Liliuokalani out of power, and they put her under house arrest. Because she had tried a second coup or whatever, and they put her under house arrest in the palace, and in Iolani Palace. And so I understand she wrote that song. I have to look at the history to be for sure, but I think she wrote that song about her. That was her farewell to the people, basically.
Yeah,
that was her. Don't cry for me, Argentina.
Right, and it's like the state song, right? Like,
is that the state song?
Okay.
The state song is I can't remember the name of it. I just looked this up, but I can't remember.
It's a song that's very closely associated with the state. Like whenever you hear it in pop culture, it's always you hear the and it's like this history behind it is actually quite sad.
Well, and what's interesting is that the government had forbade the people from learning the language.
Yeah, I remember that. I
remember
hearing about that. Yeah.
And so now there a lot of folks are recovering her songs and they're translating them.
Wow.
out of the original language, and they're finding out that they were not very flattering to the U.S. government, and that it offers this picture of what was going on, for her. But in terms of like religion, even though like the government had done all this stuff to her, she requested a Bible and a prayer book to be with her while she was under house arrest. Because so one of the things that's interesting from an Episcopal Church standpoint is that Hawaii is the only diocese in the Episcopal Church that was once its own national church. It was once the Church of Hawaii, really? Which was its own autonomous province within the Anglican world. And then it became Episcopalian once the area became a territory. And so it has its own prayer book that was in its own native language. That's still kind of part of the culture and the diocese there, and a lot of music and stuff. There's a lot of Hawaiian music that's sung in church on Sundays. It's a pretty typical thing. In fact, there's a song that Queen Lily wrote that is sung in most churches every Sunday, including my new church. So it's just, so this interesting thing of, even though like the religion came as a result of colonialism, there seemed to be this legitimate embrace of it from a Native standpoint, but it was also, part of the, it's still part of the imperialistic stuff that happened as well. It's just, yeah.
Gotcha.
And the thing is that all of that stuff, comparing like to Florida, and then differences in like Florida and Oklahoma, right? In Oklahoma, where you're at, a lot of, Native American people, were, forcibly relocated to where you live.
Yep.
And so like you see Native people there, but that's not their homeland. They were forced to be where you're at. Mm-hmm. Florida, of course, we sent, right? We forced Seminoles to march the Trail of Tears out to Oklahoma, but there was a group of Seminole and another breakoff group, they call themselves the Miccosukee, who remained. Mm-hmm. And the thing about them, and the thing about the Native tribes in Florida, is that we have actively tried to completely erase them in the state of Florida. And if we keep anything around, we create these complete fabrications about who they are in order to make white people look good. And they basically become like Disney characters. I'm not saying that's what Disney does with them. I'm just saying like that same kind of fantasy approach to it, like Osceola is depicted in history in ways that were not at all accurate to who he was as a leader of the Seminole. But so we've either erased it or we shipped it out, right, in Florida. The difference in Hawaii is that it's still there. So like the reminders of the horrors of colonialism are still front and center of what it did to a Native population. Right. Obviously, all of us in the United States can see evidence of what this kind of stuff has done to the Black population through colonialism and all that. So that's, so these are things that like I'm studying about and thinking about and curious to see what it's going to be like for my ministry, even though the Native population is very small in Hawaii. There's aspects of it that have woven itself into just the air, just how everyone is. Like there are people there, 3-4 generation, ethnically Chinese or Japanese, but they are shaped in a worldview that was given to them by the Native population of Hawaii.
Right.
And so there's this constant reminder of this people group and what we've done to them.
Well, let's shift gears. I want to do something fun.
Okay.
I'm going to do JP's top 5 movies Father Chuck should watch in order to get into the headspace he should be in when he moves to Hawaii. Movies that will prepare him for Hawaii.
Okay.
All right, right off the bat. Number 1, Pearl Harbor.
It has so little to do with Hawaii. Like they call the movie Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor's like what, like one act of that movie?
Yeah, but it's a pretty awesome scene.
Okay.
Yeah, Pearl Harbor, number 1. Number 2, 50 First Kisses. Oh no, or is it 51st
51st Dates?
It used to be called 51st Kisses, but it's 51st Dates. 51st Dates, starring the incomparable Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore.
I've seen the movie many times. Set on the North Shore of Oahu.
Which you can also see. I don't know if I want to bring that up on this podcast, but it sounds like I'm gloating. But
what?
You can my family. My dad used to live in Hawaii,
right?
And my grandparents used to own an island there, and you can actually see the island in 51st Dates.
Oh, nice.
Through the window of like one of their restaurants or something, one of the diner in the movie.
Okay. I mean, I would like to see it again now that I've been there and kind of understand the geography a little bit. So.
51st Dates, number 2.
It's not a good movie.
Number 3, I'm going to say Lilo and Stitch.
Okay.
Good one.
Beloved in Hawaii, by the way.
Is it?
Yes.
From what I understand, it's actually like, I haven't watched it in ages, but like I hear it's actually like pretty accurate. Like it's pretty... like they do a good job of sort of capturing the sort of native culture, like how they feel. I don't know.
I mean, it's been a while since I've seen it, but like I said, there are lots of Stitch stickers on people's cars when I'm there. Yes,
that's funny. Yeah, there's like a deleted scene. That I don't know why they deleted it, because it actually would have been really funny. It's where Lilo is like walking down the street or something, walking down the sidewalk, and these tourists keep like pulling over to ask her where the beach is, and she just like points to some random area.
That's funny.
And like they keep stopping and asking her, she just like points a different direction. She's just like,
yeah, that's pretty accurate from what I understand.
Yeah, so Lilo and Stitch, number 3. Number 4, I think I've run out of Hawaiian movies that are off the top of my head.
Well, let me help you. There's Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Oh yeah.
There's Blue Crush. There's
Crush. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Youth of America.
Youth
of the Nation.
Oh, I forgot that song is in the movie.
Youth of the Nation.
Michelle Rodriguez is in that movie.
Michelle Rodriguez and
Rachel Bosworth is the main actress. Or Kate Bosworth, that's right. The thing about that movie is that it's about a North Shore surfer who falls in love with a football player who is there for like the Aloha Bowl. And
all right,
the editor of Surfer Magazine got a ton of hate mail for writing this whole editorial, basically, which like blasting the movie. He's like, this is unbelievable. Like, no North Shore surfer is ever going to like fall in love with some football jock. Like, that's just not going to happen.
All right. Well, I want to replace my number 1 instead of Pearl Harbor, Blue Crush.
Blue Crush. You also forget the not at all uncontroversial, the not at all controversial Aloha.
Yes.
I own it.
From Cameron Crowe.
Ken, because the thing is, Ken and I wanted to see it, and it's like there's no one had it on streaming because I guess nobody wants it. So we found it in like a bargain bin or something, like $5, and so we bought it. And have you seen it?
I haven't seen it. I just know that Emma Stone plays an Asian, right? Like, is that?
See, here's the thing. She explicitly mentions that she's like a 16th Chinese or something. Like, her character is neurotic, and it's very like fitting with her that she's, like what she is. But she's, I mean, the thing is,
all around an unfortunate film. Like, just
the thing is, here's the deal. It's like that's like obviously I can see why there's controversy around that. But the thing is, at no point is she trying to be like 100% Asian. Like and Cameron Crowe, in his defense, he wanted to make a movie that reflected contemporary Hawaii, which is this melting pot of all these different peoples. And so you could have people that would have like a Chinese last name who look like Emma Stone, because like that just happens. But and so like I think there's like a lack of nuance when people get upset about the movie over that. But I get it also with the whole whitewashing, not casting Asians in roles. So like I get it. Like I'm not gonna defend the movie. The worst part about that movie is that it's kind of boring.
It's not Elizabeth Town in Hawaii.
it's not Elizabethtown in Hawaii, and that made me very sad because. But the deal is though is that it does actually make it does it. I like the way it depicts the. It seems to do a pretty interesting job with the Hawaiian sovereignty movement in that movie.
Okay.
But it's yeah, I don't know. It had potential, but the deal is it also deals with the military a lot. And having been to Hawaii, on 2 short trips, there's so much more going on there. And like the parts of Hawaii they show just don't seem to reflect the reality of day-to-day people in Hawaii. And the fact that they want to focus on like a white military guy is not really honest to the area, I guess. Gotcha. So, hey, he tried.
Doesn't a Very Brady sequel take place in Hawaii?
It does. You're right. There's also there's Baywatch Hawaii. Magnum PI.
Of course, yeah.
Hawaii Five-0. But yeah, Very Brady sequel. I should definitely say. And I learned this evening that Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love were married in Hawaii on a cliff. That's nice. Yeah. So I would be interested to like watch these Hawaiian movies now.
Yeah, I don't think any of the Elvis movies are going to be very accurate. I don't know if you're going to watch them.
Yeah, the thing is, I bet they're also like really embarrassing.
Yeah, I bet they are. I bet they're pretty rough to watch.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like, and there's Moana, even though it's not really set in Hawaii because it's actually set well before Polynesians got to Hawaii. But it's Moana.
Right.
Which is Avatar.
Oh, well, I mean, there's Jurassic Park, Lost.
Filmed in Hawaii, yeah.
You should just binge Lost.
No. No, I can't do it, man. I can't do it.
Did you watch Lost when it was running? I can't remember if you're one of my Lost friends. No? No,
I tried, and it was just one of those things where I couldn't keep up, and therefore I was like, ah. And then I did watch the finale, which I thought was fine. I had watched maybe 2 episodes of that show. I remember watching one episode. I watched the episode when the polar bear showed up.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like this is intriguing. And then I just was unable to like consistently watch it. But then I watched the finale because I was like, everyone's going to talk about it, so I at least want to see it. I won't know anything, but I want to see it. And it was interesting.
It's weird.
But
they didn't know how to get out of that show. It's just
right.
They had no idea.
Well, it's a J.J. Abrams thing, right?
Yeah. Well, it's like the first thing where they just didn't know how to get out of it. It's not just J.J. Abrams. More Damon Lindelof than Abrams.
That's true.
Well,
they had. Part of it is that they intended to end the show at a certain point, right? But then they were convinced to keep it going.
Something like that. It's been a long time.
And so as a result of it, and they also gave off this whole like mystique that they had an actual storyline and they just didn't.
Yeah, they didn't.
But
then Lindelof perfected it with his latest Watchmen on HBO.
Right. Well, and what Leftovers is supposed to be really good too. I've never seen any of those. I really do want to watch Watchmen.
Oh, dude, it's so good. Oh my gosh, it's so good.
Hey, speaking of good TV that we're not talking about, Picard.
Oh, it's great. I like
Picard
it.
is so good.
I didn't love the last episode that aired, but so far.
Oh, interesting. A lot of people seem to really like it. I mean, what?
I don't know. It just seemed a little. I don't know. I just didn't really do it for me. I don't know.
Okay.
I can't. I don't know. It's been a while, but I've pretty much I've loved every episode. I think it's the best Star Trek has ever looked.
That's probably true.
In my opinion. Like it just looks really good, and I hate these sort of criticisms about how it's like, oh, they're trying to make Star Trek cool. I'm like, no, they're trying to make it good. Like it, for the first time, it looks like a really, really well done show.
Yeah, and let me just say, when people talk about Picard and say like, oh, they're trying to make it edgy because the Federation is all like bad and stuff.
Yeah.
like, think of the arc that you've gone through from Next Generation until now. You've got the entire Dominion War storyline.
Right.
You've got First Contact, where the Borg traveled back in time to try to erase humanity, basically. Yeah. You've got Insurrection, which deals with the Federation, trying to like harvest alien beings for immortal purposes.
Yeah.
And then you've got Nemesis, which is not a great movie, but deals with an attempted intrusion of the Romulans into the Federation, and then them trying to ignite a weapon that would like decimate humanity.
Well, I mean, and as someone who watched like 30 hours of Star Trek recently,
yeah, which is awesome you did that.
There are a lot of episodes where the Federation, or at least people within the Federation who represent the Federation or Starfleet, are like shitty.
Oh, hands down. If an admiral shows up as a one-off, that admiral's a bad guy.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, they still show that there's a lot of like racism towards like the Romulans and stuff, and they're just willing to throw anyone under the bus if it means having one up on the Romulans.
Well, if you watch Deep Space Nine, the way they treat the Ferengi is awful.
Yeah.
Just because like the Ferengi are capitalists, so they therefore treat them as though they're. Like it completely goes against like Federation principles all the time, the way they treat the Ferengi. Right.
So it's not always like, I mean, there are some like, false flag stuff. Can't think of it on my mind right now, but it's not like it's like the whole idea of like when you ask somebody to describe Kirk, they basically describe Han Solo.
Right.
If you ask someone to describe the Federation, it's like, oh, it's a perfect utopia. Like, not really. Like, the whole point is that like we can have a better tomorrow, but humans are still humans. They're still gonna do like stupid things and horrible evil things.
I mean, to be fair, Roddenberry did not believe that. Roddenberry did believe that humanity would evolve past petty conflicts and things like that. But you could also argue that they are always at risk of de-evolution too. That's one of the reasons why, as I've said to you in in our private conversations, I think I've said this to you. I said it to Patrick Funston, Father Fun, who hasn't been on the show in like a year and a half. I'm like half expecting Q to show up at the end of this season. Basically, it's a Q thing because it's dealing with humanity, going backwards, which is the whole thing he accuses them about in the first episode of Next Generation, and also deals with in the last episode of Next Generation.
Right.
Which the last episode of Next Generation is partly set sort of contemporaneous to the time of Picard.
Like 30 hours, I should say, of Star Trek. It goes a very long way. To where I was like...
Would you get to like season 3?
No, 5.
Wow.
Because I started in 3.
Dude.
And it's... yeah, I mean, because I wanted to finish it all before I got to Picard, and I'm like, Picard's already 4 episodes in, like, and I can't take this anymore. Some of these episodes are really bad,
dude. That's the thing. For a show that is as beloved as it is, there is some garbage.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the nature of syndication. You're gonna get some real. Oof.
Have you seen the episode with the Space Irish? I need to see this one.
No, the Space Irish, or maybe the Space Irish. Would describe it to me.
It's they have to like. There's like this planet that's like about to be destroyed, and so they beam the locals up, and it turns out they're like Space Irish, and they like have to bring like their sheep and their hay with them, and they're just complete Irish stereotypes in some random like storage bay.
I don't know.
I can't remember the name of the episode, but it was recently like Gizmodo or somebody did a thing on it. It's like one of the worst episodes. Though everyone seems to really hate the episode where like Crusher like has a relationship with a green cloud.
Did I get to that yet?
I think that's the final season.
I got to one where she has a relationship with a dude with a parasite.
Yeah, was he a Trill?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was. I don't know. The Crusher's episodes are kind of. Yeah, not great.
Yeah. I don't know what to do with her.
I kind of just had to like wait them out. The I will say this: Deanna Troi episodes also not great. Deanna Troi with Luxana Troy, wonderful.
Gold. Luxana is always you see she shows up on Deep Space Nine and is great in Deep Space Nine.
and what's funny is like the first episode I watched with Luxana Troy, I was like, oh, she comes back in other episodes, really? But like she gets better in every episode.
Well, and she's all that's Majel Barry, that was Roddenberry's wife, and she does the voice of the computer.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I did read about that. Yeah.
And so they sometimes do little in jokes about her talking to the computer, which is funny. But I
read somewhere that they wanted to give her a sitcom, a Star Trek sitcom.
I wish they had the guts to do that. I really like Star Trek. To me is one of these things that we should do a whole Star Trek. Have we done a Star Trek episode?
I mean, we do lots of Star Trek episodes.
I guess. I just think that Star Trek is one of these.
It's like I feel like that's our I don't know. I don't know. I'll think of something. I'm fried.
But the thing is I think that Star Trek of any of the sci-fi franchises out there yields itself to being able to do everything.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like watching that show Almost Human. Do you remember that show Almost Human with Carl Urban?
Yes.
Okay, I thought it was a great show. Futuristic, police procedural. It was totally up my alley. I've long thought that they should do basically like Law and Order Starfleet.
That'd be cool.
Right?
Yeah.
Like down. How do they solve crimes, and then what happens when like Section 31 shows up? Like that's
I think they are planning a Section 31 show with
they are.
Michelle Yeoh.
They are, but they tend
but
to
I know
have
what you're talking about, like a cop on the beat, like
right.
What's
and
a beat like in the Federation?
Well, and there's this show coming out it's animated, I guess, Below Decks.
The Lower Decks, yeah.
Lower Decks, which make that a live action show. Come on, like give us the ship that does nothing, right?
Just like I always had this like headcanon that the Melbourne wasn't destroyed, which is the Melbourne that was offered to Riker,
right?
In the Big Borg episode, right? But then it got destroyed.
59, Lokitas.
I had this like headcanon where like they keep offering it to Riker, and he's like, "No, stop offering me the Melbourne. It's not because I don't it's not because I don't believe Enterprise. The Melbourne sucks."
Right.
I just love this idea of just like we'll give you the Melbourne. Like, stop offering me the Melbourne. Nobody wants the Melbourne.
Dude, I watched an episode the other night, and they referred to one of the other ships in the Federation, known as the USS Crazy Horse.
Yeah,
where's that? I want that ship in every episode. I want the show about that ship's captain.
Yeah, the Crazy Horse. Isn't the Crazy Horse the one with the ball? Or no. Is it a Daedalus class with the ball instead of a disc?
The Daedalus is like those are like medical ships.
Okay, maybe I'm thinking so.
I think the Crazy Horse might be an Excelsior class.
Okay.
But either way, like, give me that ship. Give me like, who's the captain of the Crazy Horse?
Like some Jimmy Buffett guy, like. Just,
dude, like
he's just sipping margaritas. Like he has a marg in each hand. Listen,
because like the Orville, I love the Orville. I think it's a great show. The premise of the Orville in the first episode was that Seth MacFarlane's character, Captain Ed Mercer, is sort of like he's given this sort of not important ship as like consolation.
Yeah.
Because like, they sort of owed him a favor. And so they just gave him, it's like, okay, you're sort of like, we have to give you command. So here's this ship. But then it's turned into that ship is basically like Enterprise D. Like it's become like this big deal. And again, it's a great show. And I think it captures the spirit of Next Generation era Star Trek better than some of the newer stuff that is actual Star Trek. But I kind of wish that in the Star Trek world, they could give us that premise. Like, give us the ship where like some admiral's kid who somehow failed his way upward is in command, and he's awful at it. And there's like some cadet, some ensign is actually way smarter than him.
Yeah,
it's basically like Wesley, but like not annoying.
Their engineer person is like Joe Rogan on news radio.
Yeah.
He's more like a maintenance guy than a.
Yeah, like give me that, or give me, or again, if you're gonna do a lower decks type show, like do it on like the Enterprise,
Right.
but let me see the people who like their whole life is just like repairing the replicator.
Right.
Like show me the menial task jobs of Starfleet and what is their life like. It's like here's the thing: when you get around to watching Voyager,
Yeah.
you get like 5 or 6 seasons into Voyager, and they do a lower decks episode, and you realize that these people have been doing these jobs for 5 or 6 years in the Delta Quadrant. They're not being promoted because the ship is just the one Federation ship.
And that was like one of the big complaints of Ronald Moore, right? Like he
Yeah.
brings that up in his big screed against Voyager.
Yeah. Why
Why are they
would
still
they?
working?
Yeah. Yeah. And like, interpret it in such a way that like, 'cause I think he's one who suggested like it should have made sense for them to like come up with like, first of all, the crew should have mutinied at some point.
Yeah.
And then develop a situation where people rotate their role on the ship, like,
Right.
maybe somebody else is captain for like a week.
Yeah, he said it should have eventually turned into like a generation ship or something.
Yeah. But yeah, also a fun thing when you're watching Voyager is to read the Memory Alpha entries of every episode after you watch them,
Okay.
and to see all the little like clearly like really nitpicky fans put things in there. And the best thing about Voyager is as you read through Memory Alpha, someone keeps a running tally of the number of shuttlecraft that get destroyed.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
And the other thing is there's a great video on YouTube that shows the number of photon torpedoes they use.
Yeah.
And the thing about that is Janeway goes out of her way in the very first episode to say that they only have like 75 photon torpedoes or something like that. They're very limited in the number of photon torpedoes they have, and they can't get more. And then they just use them all the time.
Well, I mean, it's like when pirate ships they ran out of cannonballs, they just threw in like silverware. So they just
But and they can just like basically like 3D print a ship in it. Yeah. It's Voyager's great. The other fun one is reading through Memory Alpha is Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
Is the kid who plays Jake Sisko. The actor's name is Sirach Lofton.
Okay.
I think I've told you this before. I may have even said this on this podcast. I'm convinced that he went through every entry and marked which episode he's not in, because every time he's not in it, there's like an entry in like the like background information section of each episode where it says like Sarah Clofton does not appear in this episode. Like someone did that.
That's amazing. Wow. I'm not getting enough into the minutia of the fandom here.
Oh, dude.
I'm trying to kind of avoid it because like a friend of mine invited me to a group on Facebook that talks about Star Trek, but is also a subset of the Red Letter Media fandom.
Okay.
Red Letter Media, as you know, is the Plinkett reviews. They reviewed, famous for their Phantom Menace takedown from like 10 years ago. And it's just complaining. Like it is, like he's like, oh, we're all talking about Star Trek. It's like all RLM fans and Star Trek. All they do is just complain about Star Trek. There is no, it's all just divisiveness.
Yeah, we've talked about this a few times on this podcast. Turns out fandom is awful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I've not yet.
It was bad.
Yeah, I've not yet watched Discovery. I want to do it.
It's I get people's. I watched the first season, and I get people's apprehension because of the technology and a lot of that stuff. But I also kind of think it's cool because it reminds me of gosh, we need to do a Star Trek episode soon.
Yes,
because I could do a whole episode on what I'm about to talk about. So there's this really great movie, one of my all-time favorite films, called L.A. Confidential.
Yes.
With Russell Crowe, Ethan Hawke, Kevin Spacey.
Great movie.
Yeah, and it takes place in the 50s, and it takes place like in the 50s in Hollywood. And the director of the movie, I forgot his name. He died recently, though. Very, very sad.
Not Frank Darabont.
No, it was not Frank Darabont. Lesser known director. I don't know. I forgot his name. But he wanted to show Hollywood.
Curtis Hanson,
exactly. Yes, that's it. He wanted to. It's set in the 50s, but he's like, I didn't want to make it like too authentic. I wanted to give it modern accents because that way people would focus less on what's going on around and focus more on the characters and the story. Mm-hmm. And the result of that is not just he does accomplish that. It's not just that, but it looks cool. I like the look of LA Confidential because it does look very modern, but also has like a cool sort of retro look to it.
Right.
So it's sort of mixed somehow. And I kind of feel like Discovery sort of accomplishes that. Like, it doesn't look anything like old Star Trek. But Brian Fuller has said, like, that wasn't really the purpose. It's like, there are things that, like, it'll definitely give you a hint of, like, this was thought up in the 60s. But it is modern, in a way. And that's on purpose. It's like it's an artistic decision. Because we can't make a retro TV show. They won't let us,
Well, and plus, I mean, I will say, as I love Star Trek. I will say, though, that when you're looking at the way, like the production design of Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and all of that, they're clearly, like, their image of the future is kind of plausible.
Yeah.
In the sense of, like, aesthetics, right? Like, they tap into a sort of timelessness of what we recognize as good design.
Yeah,
rounded corners. I know beige is not the thing everybody wants, and obviously like the color palette is jewel toned in those, and so that's not contemporary, but like it suggests that like the 23rd century is when the original series is set. It suggests that Starfleet hired some just insane designer.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
For everything. They just like went buck wild for a period of time there.
Yeah, that's true. But and also I think what's interesting about sort of the artistic design of Star Trek is I think like each iteration, like that is of its time. Like right. TNG is very of its time. Like right. The wall-to-wall carpet with the ficus in the corner of the room, like that was my childhood. I think like I saw plenty of rooms look like that.
It looks like a mall or a therapist office or something.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I think it's just sort of the nature of Star Trek. It's just going to happen, and yeah. So yeah, I don't know. If we keep going on Star Trek, this is going to turn into like a 3-hour episode. But,
okay. Wait, that's what we should do. We should commit to our next episode being a Star Trek episode.
We should do that. I want to do that.
Because there's so like honestly, dude, I would be totally on board with us just making this a Star Trek podcast.
Wouldn't that be great?
Shuttle podcast. Shuttle pod. Anyway, yeah, I
the captains of Divinity.
There's so much. Have I told you about the book idea that I have? We can end on this. I've had this book idea sometimes in the back of my mind, and just talking about it right now makes me think of it, and that is like an evangelism handbook for different fictional alien species.
Yeah, I mean, you've told me you've had somewhat of an idea about aliens wanting to become Christians or wanting to become baptized. Is that sort of linked?
Yeah. No. That's a novel I've been kind of working on there. No, that's kind of like serious. Okay. No, I'm thinking like it'd be a funny like comedy book. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Funny like I don't know. Maybe only I find it funny, but like like an evangelism field guide. Like, all right, so if you're going to encounter like a Vulcan, here's how you convert them to Jesus. Like, like I just think that's funny.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be interesting.
You know, like the Predator. Yeah. How to convert the Predator to Jesus.
Warning: do not try to convert the Predator. I mean, the Predator actually be pretty chill because you don't have any weapons, so they only kill people who have weapons.
That's true, right?
Yeah.
Now here's a question: the xenomorph, is the xenomorph intelligent enough to like? Is it really? I mean, how intelligent is the xenomorph?
I mean, if you try to tell the xenomorph about Jesus, like, yeah, I know him.
Oh, that's right, because that's right, because Jesus engineered them. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's right.
How do I evangelize to the engineers?
Most of our audience probably does not know.
Evangelizing to the engineers, like, yeah, this is me.
See, this would be funny. Like I said, maybe only like 5. Maybe it to be like a funny like Reddit thread.
Yeah.
Like create a subreddit. Like, all right, just start listing like alien species. Tell me how you'd evangelize them. Ferengi.
Yeah.
You know, Cardassians. Wookiees.
Yeah, cool.
We should just say real quick, Star Wars High Republic.
Oh, yeah.
And then that's it. No, say nothing else.
Okay.
And then we'll like hashtag it so that we can get like that.
Get that SEO.
That SEO.
Yeah. Star Wars High Republic. How do you feel about Star Wars High Republic? It's Star Wars High Republic. There you go.
Bernie Sanders.
All right. So thank you so much for listening. Be sure to leave a comment, a review, like, and subscribe to us on YouTube. Ring that bell for notifications. And yeah. Thank you so much for listening and watching. And I want to thank Father Chuck for being here. Thank you.
You're going to have so much fun editing this thing.
Yeah, I am.
Sorry.
It's okay. Thank you again for joining us, and join us again next week. Or next time, I should say. I had to get you saying next time. Good journey.
Mahalo.